Y'all, what's up? It's your boy back again, and welcome to 2017, and also Nerd Torch TV, your #1 spot for anime, comics, and gaming. And today, this is the brand new Sunday show that I'm gonna be doing, and we're gonna call it the Manga Comic Corner. Now, this is the show where it's gonna basically give me an outlet for me to talk about the long and grueling and difficult journey that I had to take in order to create this. This here is my first comic, or manga, or whichever you want to call it. But anyway, this channel here will basically give me the outlet on what I had to do in order to get here. Now, hopefully this show will teach you some of the lessons that I had to learn the hard way, so that you don't have to go through the same mistakes that I made when you embark on your journey of creating your first manga or comic. This show will be an every Sunday thing, and I'll go step by step through the entire production process, meaning I will go from idea to print. That means you get the inside scoop on how you can go step by step on how to do everything. This will be an every Sunday thing, so make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button if this is something that you are interested in, and maybe you can come back every Sunday or even come back every day, because we release content, or I release content on this channel every day. So without further ado, now that the intro is out of the way, let's hop right in. Now, so for episode 1 of the Manga Comic Corner, we need to dive right into the production process by talking about some of the mistakes that I see new comic and manga creators making right before they even get started with producing the actual comic. Now, the first issue I want to talk about is people who want to make long form content. That means they want to make the next Naruto, or the next One Piece, or even the next Spiderman. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being inspired by those stories. Those stories are awesome, but at the same time, you're still new to creating your story. And trying to create a long manga or comic series when you first get started is purely a recipe for disaster and a formula for failure. Now, could you imagine for a second that you're a sketch artist and someone comes to you and saying, hey, I want you to paint the Sistine Chapel. Now, that's a huge jump from what you're already doing, and that's the same way you need to be looking at your comic or manga. Not that it's impossible for you to complete a massive project on your first go through, but it's a lot better for you to work on a shorter project, get your feet wet, get your practice in, so that you can make a longer project that'll be dope. Now, I personally recommend writing a story that can be done in one book. Now, I read somewhere that this book should only be about 50 to 60 pages, but I would say go up to 100 pages, or make sure you don't go too far past 100 pages, because we still want to challenge ourselves every now and then. Trying to be too original can be a toxic thing. I personally have this creative philosophy that I like to live by. If you think up an idea, there's somebody somewhere else who's thought up the same idea that you thought of at the same time that you thought of it. Kind of a tongue twister. But here's what that means. At that point, when you come up with an idea, it becomes a race to see who can create the idea, or who can bring the idea to life first. Now, with that being said, if you lose this race and somebody else creates the idea first, that doesn't mean you shouldn't finish your idea, because the way you approach the idea is some way completely different than the way that they would approach the idea. And the reason for that is because you still have your own style and flavor to add to the mix. If you decided, hey, I have this great idea for this great invention and I'm gonna call it cake, and somebody else somewhere else came up with the same ideas, like, hey, I have this great idea and I can call it cake. Now, you guys may come up with the idea at the exact same time, and you both implement the idea at the exact same time, but their cake might come out to be vanilla and your cake might come out to be chocolate. The most important thing for you to remember is put your best foot forward when you're creating your project. Don't spend so much time worrying about being too original or trying to make something that nobody else has ever made before. I promise you, there is somebody somewhere who's come up with an idea that you've already came up with, and it's probably already been done. So I wouldn't even worry about that. I would just say stick to what you want to do and do it the best you possibly can, and just let your creativity flow. And also, most importantly, make sure you finish your project. A lot of times us artists and artists artistic type people, we try to start a project and our creativity is flowing, it's rushing, it's moving, and sometimes we get bored, we move on to something else. Make sure you guys stay tuned, because I'm gonna talk in another video on how to stay focused and actually finish your project. But that is one of the main things, is make sure you have it in your mind. Don't worry about it being the most original thing in the world, just worry about trying to get the project finished. Now, this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see new comic and manga creators make, and I personally almost fell into this trap myself. And that's spending too much time on the concept instead of the story. Now, the problem with this is that concepts are pretty much infinite. Like there's infinite possibilities to different types of concepts that you can come up with. And a lot of times people try to get wrapped up in doing those things because they want to make sure they have it all fleshed out before they even start working on the story and everything like that. And I'm here to tell you that with the infinite possibilities of different concepts that you can come up with, you will never fully finish fleshing everything out before you get started. Now, here's what I mean by concepts. Let's say your story that you're coming up with is based on magic. You may spend the most or the bulk of your time trying to figure out how every aspect of the different types of magic that's in the stories will work and interact with each other and mix and conflict with each other and things of that nature. Or if your story is based on universes and dimensions, you may spend most of your time trying to figure out how each dimension and universe will actually differ from the rest of the dimensions and universes in the story. Now, I have seen quite a few people who have fallen into this type of trap when they're creating or writing their comic or manga. Now, I've actually seen a girl who has a manga or comic rather that she's working on, and her comic is based upon magic. Like, all the characters and things have magical powers, and she actually has 3 notebooks. That's 3 notebooks worth of information that she's basically conceptualized about how the magic is gonna work and how this magic will be stronger with this magic, and this magic will make this magic more powerful, and things of that nature. She basically conceptualized so much of the magical parts of her characters or the abilities of her characters. And the craziest part about it is she's been working on this for like 3 to 4 years, and she doesn't even have an outline or a script for the actual story for her characters. Now, understanding the universe that you are creating is absolutely vital, but at the same time, a lot of the very specific and fine details can be fleshed out later as the process of you creating the story moves forward. Honestly, you just need to come up with basic rules of how your universe operates. For example, the universe I'm creating is called the Chi Flow universe. So, let me explain some things about some of the rules and concepts that I have about this universe. It's a story based off of martial arts and chi energy. One of the rules for my story, and this is just a personal rule for me, is that no single character will ever, never be powerful enough to destroy the world like in Dragon Ball Z. Also, no one in the story is going to be able to fly. Kind of like in Dragon Ball Z, how people just float around in the sky. Nobody's gonna be able to do that. That is a rule of mine. I don't want it in my story. And my reasoning for that is because I feel like that is a bit much for what I want to do, because I want to focus a lot on the martial arts philosophies that I want to implement into the story. And I feel like being powerful enough to destroy the world and flying around the skies like Superman, I think that will actually break away from the original message that I want to portray in my story. The character's chi energy will work similarly to the way it works in the Naruto universe, and with a little bit of Avatar Last Airbender kind of mixed in because of the elemental properties and things of that nature. But those are the 2 best ways I can kind of describe it right now without going into too much detail. So basically what I'm trying to say here is make sure you come up with some basic rules of how your universe works, and try not to deviate from them, or do your best. Matter of fact, absolutely don't deviate from them when you're creating your outline and scripting out your story. Those are the 3 main mistakes I see new comic and manga artists make before they usually even get started with their project. The main goal for you guys as storytellers is to tell a good story, which is going to be the subject matter of our next video in episode 2 of the Manga Comic Corner. We're going to be talking about how to tell a good story, what makes a story good, and the 3-act story structure. The 3-act story structure is pretty much this old formula of how to tell a good story. That's the simplest way that I can put it, and it is worth learning if you want to be a good storyteller. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for episode 2 of the Manga Comic Corner. And also, I upload every day, which is a goal of mine to upload every day in 2017. We're going to be talking about other comics, manga, anime, that type of stuff. So make sure y'all check that out. And also, go to nerdtorch.com for awesome nerd gear. And I'm also going to be putting a whole bunch of other stuff on my website, more so related to pretty much everything that I do. So it's going to be other cool stuff there, so make sure you guys go check that out. It's your boy Nitro Hotfire here, and I'm out. Peace.